So I want to explain some of the artwork that I use in my videos because to me they're very touching. To me they bring me a sense of peace. They really calm me down when I look at them. They feel they feel dreamy. They make me think about life in a calmer way. I think they make me slow down. And there's a lot of symbolism involved. It's not necessarily it's surrealism. It's not necessarily realism. It's surreal. And I think the surreal can teach us a lot as to seeing things from more of a symbolic perspective instead of seeing things as just simply hyperrealism. And for artwork to me is it's beautiful, but I enjoy the more symbolic approach to artwork. And when I see these ladders, they do make me feel about, I remember about Neville's ladder experiment. And I remember the first time I tried it when it worked, and that was very eye-opening for me when actually remembered I climbed a ladder, and I felt that I actually didn't become aware of that I did that until like 30 minutes after I realized that I actually did climb a ladder. And it happened in such a strange way. I mean, I was asked to climb a ladder. I'm never asked to climb a ladder in my life. That just never happened. So when I was asked to climb a ladder, I'm surprised it didn't register right away when I saw it. But when I look at the ladder in the artworks, I remember that. I remember the first time I did that and it worked. And I've heard it from other people where they bump in, they never paid attention, and the next thing you know, they're climbing a ladder. They never were around ladders and they had to for work, or somebody will ask you to do it. And it's the strangest thing. And you ask them, did they know that they were going to do this? And of course they don't know. They have no idea why they asked you. And it's like when Neville and his wife divorced. She had no idea that, he goes, after everything that happened, who was the one who started it all? He goes, it was the I within me. Because I imagined myself being happily married. But I had to get divorced from the person I was with, so I imagined myself happily married, and then it happened. And he says, but who did it? It wasn't the outer Neville. It was the inner Neville. It was the inner him, which is all of us. And in this painting here, I see these men looking out into the distance, and there's nothing. It's just water. And the painting there, to me, resembles their imagination. And the doors of these buildings resemble states of mind, and they imagine boats being there. It seems like they need to be rescued. I mean, haven't all of us have felt the need to be rescued in times we need a savior? And in this case, they're using their imagination together to imagine boats for their salvation. That's what I see. And it's not the most perfect image. It's not the most detailed, but it's getting the point across. That's what I care about. It gets the point across. It's the idea that nothing in your senses is showing you, but you imagine it anyways. And that's how it seems to reality to work. And the one who does it is the imagination. And it's as Neville said, it's the I within us who did it. And you might see many chairs, or you might see arches. And the chairs to me resemble contemplation. And to me, contemplation is a time to relax. It's a time to rest. It's a time to validate oneself. It's a time to allow oneself to imagine something new. It's a time to accept new things. It's a time to, just allow oneself to imagine how they want to be. It's not a stress. It's the opposite. It's really acceptance, and it's fulfillment. It's not wanting and anxiety. It's not hoping. It's more knowing. It's a time to feel that, because when we desire something for so long, it can feel like we can't fall into the state of being fulfilled. The fulfillment feeling, or the fulfillment state, almost seems so foreign to us. We almost don't want it. We're not willing to give up our desire or our wantedness for fulfillment. We want to keep feeling desire because it's what we're used to. And it might feel scary to feel fulfillment, but we have to eventually let go of our desire and trust that it's fulfilled. We have to move into positions of fulfillment, and that's what these chairs give me. And the reason why there's so many of them, especially in this painting here, is that they resemble all of us, that we're all here together imagining. We're all imagining. And there's really not much of a difference between what you imagine and what you do. Try to find the difference. We do what we imagine. We don't always do everything we imagine, but we do what we imagine. and we express what we are, and we are what we imagine ourselves to be. And so these chairs, we're all individually experiencing the room, and this room here is, to me, the world. It represents the entire world that we're in. We're all experiencing it differently through different states of mind. And we are allowed to occupy any of these arches or any of these paintings or realities within us. We're allowed to see ourselves the way we want. We have that freedom, and we have the freedom to choose. And once you know about this, that you have this freedom, it's going to be very hard for you to give it up. I remember there were times where I couldn't really accept that I was causing a lot of things in my life. Like I couldn't really see it from Neville's perspective, but then I kept testing it. And eventually I had to accept that that was the case. That the end result is going to be me being responsible for what states I'm occupying, me being responsible for the things I do within me, because there really is nothing else within me that's doing it. And so I have to become entirely responsible for what I actually am saying to myself. And when we see thoughts as investments and as wishes, as I said in my last video, what kind of self-image am I investing in? It becomes the question. What ideas am I really investing myself into? What am I going to reap in the future? Well, if I start to imagine myself in a way that I dislike, it might not happen tomorrow. But if I continue doing it, I will start to become and take upon that nature. Regardless of what the nature is, I take upon the nature of what I imagine. And this is why I said it's not about worthiness. It's about allowing yourself to be in a different room. It's allowing yourself to be in a different place. And in this image here, the eternal rooms, this idea of, each painting here represents, and I love museums, and that's another reason. A lot of it's as well because of things I personally like. And since I can make the image, I'm going to make it the way I like it. But these paintings represent to me, different realities. All these rooms represent different realities that we can occupy, but it's one big room. And again, you see the chair here, and it's for contemplation. And we can move really if we want to, but we can also stay if we want to. It doesn't have to be this urgent thing. I think at times when I would imagine, I would feel this urgency to get into the wish fulfilled, or make sure I don't feel this, or make sure I don't do that. I'd always imagine what I shouldn't do. I never really imagined what I wanted to do. It took me a long time to imagine what I wanted, but because the freedom felt false to me. It felt too good to be true for me to actually imagine the things I wanted. It felt, the excitement I would feel almost felt like it was a lie. And when I just decided to sit again on that chair and contemplate on the idea of, why don't I just accept it instead of thinking it's a lie, I started to go towards what I wanted. More and more every day I started to chip away at, I just try to carve out a new image of myself. And it could be really hard to accept a new image when you feel that you are the image that you are right now permanently. It can feel like it's an impossible task, but with God, all things are possible. And so I believed that. I believed it was possible for me to be in the state I wanted to be, and it was possible for me to see myself the way I wanted to see myself, regardless of all the facts in the world. I wanted to accept this. I wanted to change myself. I wanted to change my life. And I saw that life can't really be changed through the force of changing other people, but through my own occupancy of states. What rooms am I sleeping in? What ideas am I really dating? What ideas am I spending time with about myself? And you'll see that a lot of your thoughts are going to come from an image that you hold of yourself. And like I said, you might like the image, you might not like the image, but the chair is always open. And that's why I love this. In this case, we see a man sitting here, and there's two chairs in front of him. And to me, these are, different states of mind that he's thinking about. He's not sure which one to choose. And then he has all these hats above him. And to me, these represent other states of mind that he could choose, but, he's not necessarily interested in those. He's interested in these two in front of him. They became chairs for him to think about. And he wants to go up these sets of stairs. And he wants to choose one and walk out the door. That is what he's necessarily doing here. And that's what I see. We've all been in that position where we're not quite sure what state we should be in. And we want to make the right choice within ourselves. And we have to ask ourselves, what is it that I really want to give myself? If I had to give this to another person, would they like it? Would I like it? Neville always used the golden rule. And that's a great way to figure out what you want. It's a great way to feel if you have that if you're in this position where you're not sure what to choose. Neville said to imagine that you made the wisest choice, to feel after that. I would say you'd have to choose one. I think Neville mentioned that too, that it's better to choose something than to choose nothing. Better to be hot or cold than to be lukewarm. Will be spit out, as it says. And I've actually done that in my real life when I drank something that was lukewarm. I hated it. But, we have to make a decision on what we're going to be. We have to decide something. Maybe, as Neville said, maybe it's a mistake, but then you'll learn from it. But you have to choose something. You have to choose a chair that you're going to rest upon. A certain idea. And of course you can change it after, but make a decision on what you actually want to be. How do you want to feel about yourself? You have all these other hats that you could choose from, all these other ideas, but it seems that these two are the ones that interest you. You'd have to make a choice eventually. And then in this image that I think this image is beautiful, but it's a man looking at this wallpaper, and to me the wallpaper represents his imagination. And what I see there is a piano, and our imagination he's practicing the instrument, the great instrument called imagination. You can view it as an instrument. It doesn't have to instruments don't just have to be violins and pianos. You can view your imagination as an instrument. And it's something that it's going to have to take you ever on your phone and you ever try to, for me growing up, I used to love libraries, but I could never read a book. I never had the attention span to read a book. And then when I would go on my phone, very hard for me sometimes to watch something that's slightly boring. Actually, this video might be a little bit boring. But hopefully I kept your attention. But, for me, I always struggled with that. But your imagination, if you care about it, it's going to require your attention just like anything else would. And so you have to learn to start caring about your mind and what's in it. And you'll become more attentive to what you do in it. You'll pay more attention. You become just like an instrument that you're playing. At first, you might not get it. It might bore you at first. But if you keep going to it, you will learn to master it, just like anything else. And again, you see a chair here for contemplation. You see the piano, and it's an instrument. And then you see the man there, and they're behind him. And these are his instruments. These are his contemplation, and he's practicing. And then you see the expression on the wallpaper, and that's what he's imagining. And that's what I see in this image. And the arch is simply an idea that he's contemplating on. And he has a door there to go to somewhere else. He doesn't have to stay in this door or in this room. He can go to somewhere else. I love this image. It's very captivating when you see it from that perspective. And then in this image, the seashells remind me of the pearl of great price, and how the imagination has to be you have to accept that that's the door to a different version of yourself. And you see that this man is looking at a different side of him. And he has to go up a couple of stairs to get there, but he can do it if he has the pearl. And the pearl there is the door. It's the way to get to that side of you. And so the way you want to be, you will become the thing that you imagine yourself to be. And so yourself is really imaginary in the end. Because the root, you see that the pearl's there before the man. So he has to go to the pearl to go up those stairs to get to that man, which is himself. And so we accept that the pearl is the great price. It's the pearl, it's the belief that only by my imagination will I become, not by other things, not by other means. I won't get good just by doing good things. The Pharisees believed that if they just gave their mint, 10 leaves of mint, or if they tithe, you see this till this day, that if we do the good deeds, I'll be seen as good. I will accept that about myself. But it never really works, because it's always dependent upon your deeds. And what happens when you do something that you otherwise find immoral? What do? And then you're going to give up the state. You're going to let it go. But if we can see that our foundation of goodness comes from the pearl, from the great price, it's something I believe about myself, regardless of the outside, I will start to express that. And so I just wanted to touch upon, some of the artwork that I use in my paintings. Hopefully that'll give you a better idea as to what I see in them, and I'm sure you can come up with your own ideas as well. But I really just want them to provide a feeling of peace, understanding, and contemplation, the urge to contemplate upon new ideas, because that's what they do for me. And yeah, thank you for listening.